Alrighty boys, welcome back once again to another video. How you guys doing? Guys, today we're going to be doing a type of video that I haven't done in quite a long time. Specifically, I believe it was around season 8 or season 9, which was the last time that I've done something like this. And by the way, before I really do start jumping into it, let me know in the comments, if you guys prefer this kind of intro to a video, or if you're like, Joey, you're a little too ugly, I'd rather you be in the bottom left corner. Just let me know. But yeah, today's video is actually suggested by one of you guys back on my Heartbreaker in 2020 video, where I was basically talking about, hey, I have no video ideas, I'm gonna need some help. And Nick the Hill came in clutch with a comment that said, do a season 11 review, expectations at the start versus the reality at the end. And it got me thinking, it's been a very long time since I've done a video like this. These are actually really fun, and it's really cool to take a look back, because sometimes a lot of people forget exactly what happened during that season, whether it be good or bad. And today's video is no different. We got a lot of updates that had some good stuff, a lot of updates that had some bad stuff, and some updates that came out and really didn't affect the game whatsoever. So that's what we're going to be going over in today's video for Fortnite Save the World. And yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. Okay guys, so now before we actually jump into the entire, season review and the overview and the rewind and all the other kind of stuff, I do want to mention 3 key things first before we do get into the nitty gritty. Number 1 is that in this video, I'm going to be referring this season as season 11. I know a lot of people in the Fortnite community called this season, chapter 2 season 2. However, chapter 2 was really an entire overhaul for Fortnite, specifically Battle Royale, with new graphics and a new map and tons of different new weapons and redesigns and stuff, even new mechanics. And I don't consider Save the World to have gotten the chapter 2 treatment. It definitely just felt like the exact same game as soon as the servers went online. So I personally refer to the season as season 11, as Save the World is definitely not in chapter 2. The second thing that I do want to mention is that I'm not going to be judging this season based off of returned content. I am not going to be mentioning if the Santa's Little Helper came back, the Gravedigger, or a new hero or something like that. Whenever I'm reviewing a season, I'm talking about the new stuff, the stuff that is there that wasn't in the previous season, a lot of the key moments and a lot of the big amount of content releases that came in specific updates and all the other kind of stuff. If it's recycled content, then I'm not going to be mentioning it in today's video. And the last thing I want to mention is that I am definitely not a perfect person, so there's probably a few things that are missing from today's video. If it's anything important and it's like a key thing to the actual season 11 overview, please mention it in the comments down below so I can, kind of tickle your comment with a heart so that other people can see it, and I would greatly appreciate that. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to be starting off with version 11.0, going all the way to version 11.50, and then at the end of the video, I'm going to give you guys an overview along everything with the season, a few different talking points that I do want to touch on. But while we are going update to update, I will be giving my opinions and my thoughts on every single one that did come to the game. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. Let's go through the entirety of season 11 and let's talk about it. So starting off the video, we have the version 11.0 update. Now this was definitely a very controversial update overall. This was the new season launch, something that the entirety of the Save the World community had been waiting for a very long time. And whenever the season 11 update did drop, we ended up getting a roadmap leading up to version 11.20, as well as the C-Bot Soldier and an AFK timer for AFK improvements. So the entirety of the content for this update that we did end up getting was a new soldier and an improvement to AFK, while although not perfect, was a bit of a band-aid fix and helped things a little bit overall. We also got clarification from the devs that they are going to be on a different update cycle, and they're hoping to pump out updates a little bit slower, but having them be more meaningful over time. Although the community really didn't care for that too much, as we had been waiting for this season for a while, and the fact that we got one soldier and one AFK improvement that wasn't even perfect, this was definitely a very controversial update. Now moving on from that, we have a version 11.01. We had the new Haunted Mansion questline, as well as the new zone, as well as the Willow Outlander. And honestly, I did like this update a lot. The fact that they did give us a fetch quest that was based in its own area the entire time was probably the best that fetch quests have ever, been done in Fortnite Save the World. Instead of going on a fetch quest throughout the normal missions that you've already gone on like 300 plus times, this one was actually based in a very unique area that you've never been before, and I genuinely enjoyed this quest line and the entirety of the new area that they created for it. Moving on from that, we had the version 11.10 update. We had the Werewolf quest line, as well as a new swamp biome for Hexylvania, specifically for Fort Nightmares, as well as the Twine Storm King and the Black Metal set, as well as a Ghost Pistol buff. This one was was a pretty solid update, a new fetch quest line. Didn't really care for it. I do believe that it did give Dire, you know, at the end of it. That's why it's called the Werewolf. You know, we got the new swamp biome, which was actually really cool, and it makes me very disappointed by the fact that we got an entirely new biome that really wasn't utilized all that much, but it looked kind of similar to Felucia from Star Wars. Really loved this new zone, and it's a shame that it's not a permanent one. The Twine Storm King, obviously this was prefacing, you know, the Mythic Storm King, so the Twine Storm King of course went from Canny and he got an upgrade. I believe he had different mechanics if I remember correctly, but honestly I don't know. But he was a little bit tougher than the Canny Valley one. And then of course we have the Black Metal set, which is pretty controversial as it was pretty bad overall, although there were a few diamonds in the rough, as well as the Ghost Pistol buff, which was practically just an entire meme from the entire community really. The Ghost Pistol was just that meme gun. It got buffed, I did a re-review on it, and it's actually a really good gun now. Moving on from that, we have the version 11.10 content update. We got the Summer Camp quest line, as well as the Black Metal Scythe. Nothing in particular that's really great. The Scythe wasn't all that great, and the Summer Camp quest line was just your average fetch quest. Then moving on from there, we had the version 11.10 content update number 2, where we had the Monster Bride questline, Arlene Iza, Black Metal Sword, as well as Save the World being in the top 10 sold properties on PSN for the month of October. Now the Monster Bride questline again was just yet another generic fetch questline that nobody cared about. Then we had the Arlene Iza hero that was at the end of it, one of the best and kind of meta changing heroes that really ended up coming to the game. I really like her. The Black Metal Sword was a pretty good sword overall, although at the time I was a little bit tough on it. And Save the World being in the top sold, you know, DLCs and expansions on PSN that month was a pretty big deal, seeing as there was really not a specific reason for people to buy it other than the fact that there was a Save the World kind of like a Storm King LTM and BR at the time, but pretty impressive that Save the World got a, you know, a high amount of sales around that time. Moving on from there, we ended up getting the version 11.20 update. Now this was the big update for Save the World that everybody had been looking forward to ever since the launch, and oh boy did this add a lot of stuff to the game, and in my opinion was probably the most content rich that Save the World had been in a very long time. I found myself kind of struggling to really do everything for quite a while, and this was a heyday for me. I really enjoyed this. We had the Mythic Storm King come to the game. He also brought his, you know, own set of mythic weapons that you could earn. We had dungeons as a new game mode, as well as dungeon themed heroes and rewards that you could earn. Tons of banners, tons of heroes, tons of stuff to keep doing. We had weapon wraps added to the locker, which was a really huge deal, being able to customize every single weapon in Save the World, at least for the most part. We had the Save the World first ever crossover event, which was the Battle Breakers crossover, which in my opinion was really cool. We only ended up getting 2 heroes. At this one specifically, we ended up getting Razor at this update, and you know, it's a really cool crossover, but I just wish that they did a little bit more with it. Really cool game. I love the art style, and I love the way that the heroes turned out in Save the World, and Razor was a very good hero, one of my favorite Kunai Storm heroes. And then lastly, for this update, we ended up getting a rocket launcher rework, which ended up giving rocket launchers actual ammo instead of making it to where they have unlimited ammo and they break really fast. I for one am a very big fan of this rework, as you know, even though rocket launcher ammo can be a little bit expensive, in my opinion is still much better than having it constantly break on you. Aside from this, we ended up going on over to the version 11.20 content update, to where we got the Black Metal Launcher. Now the Black Metal Launcher, I believe it's called the Metal Marauder, was actually a Santa's Little Helper competitor. If you didn't have the Santa's Little Helper, the Metal Marauder was actually fantastic. This is one of the few black metal weapons that turned out to be really good in the meta, and all in all, I mean, for this content update, we got 1 rocket launcher in terms of stuff that was new, and it was a pretty good one. Now moving on from this, we probably have one of the most controversial updates in Save the World history, where Epic was just so close to making the community happy, and then they just strayed really far from that. 11.30 ended up having Frost Knight return to the game, as well as the Crackshots neighborhood area. It's basically like Frost Knight, but a little bit different, so that you can do missions in them. Really did enjoy that, very similar to what they did with the Swamp Biome and with the Haunted Mansion. We ended up getting a new toy weapon set, which I personally am really, you know, I really enjoyed it, honestly. I like a lot of the weapons in there. Of course, we had the controversial Husk AI and the trap changes whenever it came to propanes, into smashers and, you know, wall launchers and all the other kind of stuff. We had the new anti-air trap, which ended up replacing the patrol ward, something that was actually pretty huge for the game in my opinion. Another pretty huge thing that not many people talk about is the auto recycle feature that got added to the game, allowing you to auto recycle things at certain rarities whenever you pick them up. Aside from that, the only other thing that happened this update is that transforms were removed from the game, which in my opinion was like one of the dumbest things that Epic's done in a while. I didn't really see a problem with transforms being there. I would have rather them worked on reworking expeditions rather than removing transforms, but Epic Games gonna do what an Epic Game's gonna do. Now, also around this time, I don't know if it was in one of the following content updates or if it was in 11.30 itself, because of the controversial Husk AI and the trap changes, they also did something that was extremely controversial on top of that, and they made it to where the, you know, Husk power level scaling for stuff like endurance and stuff like high-end Twine peaks, I believe as well as Frost Knight, they ended up making the Husks very, very low level in places like Frost Knight and endurance, and this mainly affected Frost Knight negatively in the sense that power level 128 Frost Knight was just laughably easy to where you could do it on your first try if you had a group of people to play with you, and it was pretty bad. A lot of people really wanted Frost Knight to come back to the game because it was going to be something that was challenging, and it's one of the best modes that Save the World's ever seen. Epic Games, of course, put out this meta shift as well as, you know, degraded the amount of Husk, you know, power level scaling that there was, completely diminishing the challenge and not really making it fun at all, on top of the actual, you know, trap changes and Husk AI stuff. Something I really wanted to mention because I don't remember specifically what update they ended up doing it in. Might have been a hotfix though. Now moving on from that, we have the version 11.30 content update where we had the new Battle Breakers hero Kurohimura, and this was the final Battle Breakers hero that ended up coming to the game. He's practically worthless as a commander, but he looks cool and that's good enough for me. Aside from that, Save the World went 50% off. Now moving on from that, we had the version 11.31 content update number 1, and we had the new toy hero known as Tank, which is quite literally like the meme of the Save the World community now. Like he's just really bad. He's just terrible. I don't like him. I don't think anybody likes him. Aside from that, we have one of my favorite weapons of all time that got added in this patch, the toy rocket launcher, the Shark Attack. It's like a grenade launcher mixed with a rocket launcher. It shoots little toy sharks with explosives in their mouths, and it's really fun and wacky and stupid, and it does massive amounts of damage as well, so I love the Shark Attack personally. Moving on from that, we had the version 11.31 content update number 2, and we had the new toy hero known as Monks, and this was a kunai hero that threw bananas on the floor. She's okay, not really too crazy in my opinion. And moving on from that, lastly, we had the version 11.31 content update number 3, to which we got 2 new bow and arrows in the game. We got the new hydraulic bow compression burster, as well as the Vendortech bow, which is the Seeker. And the hydraulic bow was really good as an impact bow. The Vendortech Seeker did not work at all, and it still kind of doesn't work, and I don't really like it. It's probably my least favorite of the new bows. So yeah, the compression burster was a pretty good thing to come in that content update. Aside from that, don't really care. Moving on from that, we have the version 11.40 update, and this was the next big content release and the last big content release of this season. We ended up having the Misfit Toys questline, which ended up giving the new toy hero known as Jilly Teacup, which is a very solid teddy hero, and the first ever teddy hero to have her very own unique teddy skin. We also got the new Happy Holidays team perk, which I didn't mention the, you know, other team perk which came with the Fortnite heroes, mainly because it wasn't that big of a deal. However, the Happy Holidays team perk actually changed the game, as it, you know, reduces your ability cooldown, and it's absolutely insane. It makes for a lot of really fun builds in the game. As well as we ended up getting a lot of server issues as well as account wipes whenever this update ended up launching, to the point where people really weren't able to play. There was a lot of crashing. People were losing their entire inventories. You know, 11.40, just like 11.30, you know, 11.40 was a good update, but it had that one thing that ruined it. In this case, it was the account wipes and the server issues. In 11.30's case, it was the fact that they decided to do a meta shift whenever Frost Knight launched and they went on Christmas break. So another update where Epic Games could have pleased the crowd, but they kind of fell short. And of course, with this as well, we ended up getting an 8-bit demo hero rework, where they made 8-bit demo from one of the most useless heroes in the game to one of my personal favorites, and he is a launcher hero that will rechamber your ammo straight back into the mag, or the little slot thingy for the rocket. He's a really good launcher hero, and I love 8-bit demo. It is a fantastic fantastic rework. So overall, pretty good, update, aside from the fact that they ruined people's accounts and they had to make up for it later. Now, moving on from that, we have the new Black Metal Night Owl bow, which came out in the 11.40 content update. Now, this weapon right here is the potential to be something great. It's high damage, but it's got really low crit chance, and that's kind of what ruins it in the end. Literally, the crit chance ends up ruining this bow. Aside from that, we have the version 11.40 content update number 2, and we have the new vacuum tube bow, which is just another bow. It kind of exists. It's not really crazy. It's not really good. And then we actually have the inventory wipe compensation, which, by the way, the compensation they gave for the inventory wipes was way better than what people like previously had. Like, Epic Games gave you a ridiculous amount of rewards if you got your inventory wiped, to the point where if I got my inventory wiped, I would have rather that happen so I could get the big boy rewards that Epic Games was giving. They ended up compensating people very well for this, but that still doesn't really make up for the fact that it happened to begin with. And yeah, moving on to the last updates of the season, which was 11.50 as well as the content update for it. We ended up getting a new game engine. The skin and the back bling system was delayed, which that was something that was mentioned in the roadmap as to the locker being fully completed. And we still, to this day, are lacking the reactive stuff in Save the World. We are lacking back blings, we are lacking skins, we are lacking melee wraps, as well as hoverboard wraps. A lot of work that Epic Games still needs to do, and it's still not in the time frame that was supposed to be, done. So that ended up getting delayed in 11.50, as well as the dungeons and the Fortnite modes were announced to be leaving, whereas a lot of people thought dungeons were permanent, but apparently they're going to be something for Fortnite exclusively, which in my opinion is absolutely asinine. But yeah, so that is the entire, kind of overview of the, entire season, going by update and things that happen, and my opinions on it, of course. So that is the entirety of season 11 and a few of my opinions that went along with it. Now, overall, right, this is the point that, you've been watching for a while. You're trying to figure out what my opinions are on the season. What were my personal opinions as a content creator of this game, somebody that's been playing for nearly 3 years? What were my opinions on this entire season? It was slightly better than it was bad, like a 5.5 out of 10, 6, out of 10 or something like that. It wasn't good. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad by any means. It was just kind of meh, but like a little bit better than meh, in my opinion. I'm gonna give you my reasoning as to why, because this season had the potential to be the best ever season Save the World's ever seen. In fact, whenever the actual season launched and they had the roadmap, I called it the best roadmap that Save the World had ever seen. And I full-heartedly believe that. I think that that roadmap was the best roadmap Save the World has ever seen. So why overall would I give this season a 5.5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10? Because there were a few points during the season where we had some really good content, we had some pretty cool things that ended up coming to the game. Why would I rank it such an rating? So whenever it does come to the game changes of the season, we definitely have some that are pretty good, we definitely have some that are pretty bad, stuff like the meta shift. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the bad key points that did happen in the season that really, for me, lowered the overall score of how I did feel about this season. So of course we did start off pretty weak with the, day one update, not really bringing anything at all. Then we got some pretty cool Fortnite content, but leading up in the version 11.20, we got a ton of content at one time, and the community was at an all-time high. Everyone was cheering on Epic, everyone was saying how great Epic was and what they were doing. And this was around the time that Epic Games thought it was a good idea to implement a meta shift right before they went on Christmas break. And the meta shift was some of the most ridiculous stuff that the entire community had ever seen, with stuff like propanes blowing up at 30%, stuff like smashers being really aggressive, a lot of the traps not working the way that they previously did, as well as a lot of nerfs that really weren't needed, as well as, Fortnite coming back being one of the biggest Save the World modes of all time, being completely ruined in the sense that there wasn't a single reward for in-game players to even go for, whereas last year there was actually a banner that you could earn, and I know that's not much, but at least it's actually something. Fortnite came back with huge expectations to have 0 good rewards invested in it, as well as this meta shift on top of it, really changing how people play Fortnite, and not for the better because of stuff like stall builds, making it completely trivial in the end. And so, going off of one of the biggest points that Save the World had ever seen with 11.20, going to 11.30 with this really ridiculous meta shift, Epic Games ended up going on vacation, so there was a really long time of lack of communication with very little content, and then they finally come back and they have 11.40 and they implement some good stuff. They got, you know, Jilly Teacup, she comes with the new Happy Holidays stuff. You got the 8-bit demo rework, and then you have server issues and people's accounts getting wiped and people not being able to play the game. And they had a lack of communication during this period as well, where they weren't telling people in the game that they shouldn't log in and that there, you know, is a chance that their stuff could get wiped. Instead, you know, if you didn't use Reddit, if you didn't use Twitter, if you didn't look at other content creators, you might not have known that this was going on and you might have got your account wiped. And so there was a lack of communication on this. There was a lot of server issues. There's people's accounts getting completely deleted in terms of what they had on them. It was pretty ridiculous. And of course, ending off on a really low note, we had 11.50 that came out where we got the new game engine, which essentially did nothing, at least for now. We ended up getting the skin in the backbling system delayed, and we also don't know when melee weapon wraps, the reactive stuff, as well as hoverboard, you know, wraps are coming out, and as well as dungeons was being announced to leave, where a lot of people thought that dungeons was permanent. So you got stuff like them promising that cosmetics were coming this season, only to have it delayed at the very last update with no communication leading up to it. The key word here, if you haven't really figured out, is communication. Epic Games was entirely, they were just kind of unplugged from the community. They didn't really know what was good for the game. The meta shift really ruined the game for a lot of people that really like trapping, like David Dean himself. You know, Fortnite coming back with no real rewards for in-game players rubbed people the wrong way, as well as them making stuff like Fortnite 128 extremely easy with stuff like stall builds and low power level husks. And then 11.40 comes around, and then you have server issues and account wipes, and 11.50 comes around. You get an engine, you know, with absolutely no content and no changes on day one, as well as dungeons going away, as well as, you know, the cosmetics that were promised not actually making their way there. And none of this was really communicated by Epic Games. The server issues and the account wipes weren't communicated that you shouldn't log in around that time. The, you know, meta shift was just Epic being completely disconnected as to what was really good for the game. And 11.50 was just more lack of communication, you know, just letting us find out that something we had been looking forward to for a very long time was getting cut at the last second and was then being moved to, you know, March. And this has been something that we've been waiting on for over half a year now. So there was some really good points in the season, you know, a few good points leading up to version 11.20 and then 11.20 itself, but every key update after that had something go on that really just ruined the update itself, no matter how good it was. 11.50 was nothing but bad, let's be honest, but 11.40 had some good stuff. 11.30 had a lot of good stuff, but because of the meta shift and because of the issues with servers and account wipes with those updates respectively, that's what really ruined the good that was there. If that stuff had not happened, I would have easily given the season like an 8, you know, a very, very, very solid 8 out of 10, maybe 8.5, maybe even a 9. There was some pretty decent stuff that happened this season, but there's just a few different things that just really brought down my score overall, and I would feel dishonest if I gave this, you know, something above a 6 out of 10. So I guess at the end of the day, I will give it a 6 out of 10 because we did get some pretty great content overall that I enjoyed playing through. Nothing really substantial for the game overall, and a lot of negative stuff that happened at a lot of different key points. But guys, that's pretty much it for me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below, and if you guys even made it to this part of the video, comment, you know, something, like literally the word something, if you happen to do. I don't know who the hell is watching this long of a video, but if you did it, then, you know, thank you. I love you, and, you know, just don't tell the others, but you're looking pretty cute today. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy it. It was a bit of a long one. I don't really do these often, but yeah, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time.